we will go ahead and get started. This will be a special meeting of the Hennessey Town Board of Trustees. Roll call, please.
Richard? Cliff?
Yes.
Bert?
Here.
Harold?
Here.
David?
Here.
I am glad to see a big audience tonight. Unfortunately, with a special meeting, there is no public comments. So I just want to put that out there. I have asked our attorney, John Lynn, to be with us tonight, and he is here for those of you that may not know him. So we will proceed on with the scheduled business, discuss, approve, award, review, reject, and/or deny action on the following. Item A is accept the resignation letter from Tiffany Tillman, Town Administrator. Okay, moving on, that wasn't accepted.
Sorry.
I make a motion to accept the letter of resignation.
Second.
Roll call?
Cliff?
Yes.
Harold?
Yes.
Bert?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Tiffany, I would just like to take this opportunity to thank you so much for 17 years of wonderful service to this community. I've always heard the adage that you never miss the water till the well runs dry, and I think the town is getting ready to experience the dry well.
Thank you
And
very much.
really appreciate that.
I do want to say, I truly love this town. I've only wanted to do what's best for the town. And to me, I just feel like maybe it was my turn to turn it over, that under some circumstances it wasn't going any further, so.
I understand. Okay, item B is discussion with possible action to appoint an interim town administrator. John, I'm glad that you're here because I had thought we would do this under executive session, and John had advised that we go to an open meeting. Can we discuss and appoint an interim town administrator?
Well, let me see your agenda. Yes, I think with Tiffany's resignation, I think is effective February 24. So I think tonight, with the item that you've listed, you could appoint an interim town administrator effective as she leaves for the 25th. Your code book actually defines the duties and responsibilities of the town administrator. And so I would think that anybody you appoint would take on these duties unless you would reduce them for this interim period.
Is that ordinance 323? Town administrator 323?
It's in chapter 7, officers, employees. This will be easier. These are her or not her statutory, but according to your code, these are her duties today. Now, you all have kind of fine-tuned those from time to time, so these are kind of broad in scope.
So if we're gonna make any changes to this,
If you were going to appoint an administrator tonight, the assumption would be that that person would take on all these duties that are listed unless you would handcuff them, you would reduce their duties.
but what about some of the ordinances that we passed, that we gave Tiffany, because she's been here for as long as she has, that you would probably not want to give somebody that, that would be new, or, you know, like the hiring and firing process, the $20,000 limit. How do we go about getting rid of that ordinance?
Well, you would have to discuss that as a board and determine which ones of these duties that you would like to restrict or eliminate or add, I suppose.
Change that ordinance though?
I
It's
think
not
what,
an ordinance.
yeah,
It isn't, it was.
Is it an
Yes,
ordinance?
they,
Okay.
they did an ordinance to, and in effect, I think you drafted, or no, it was, I think you drafted that
I
up
think he did.
about a year ago, year and a half ago.
I remember an ordinance that we did on duties.
Yes, duties,
Yeah.
yes. And, Harold, to answer your question, I don't think that you would, at this point, want to eliminate those ordinances, but maybe, like he's saying, give your interim specific duties or stuff that they can and cannot do while they're interim. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I just know you have a little bit more fire than a lot of some of the others that coming in, that you, as a town board, that I don't know if I would absolutely trust with the fire of an open checkbook, and that you had, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's part of you being here for 17 years, that you've had that benefit, you know?
Well,
Harold,
I also want to tell you that anything that I spent over 5,000, and if it was an
Still was-
emergency, I
yeah.
still had to bring it before the board the next meeting.
Yeah,
So there is that.
you know, I'm just asking questions.
well, I think what you could do, Harold, to protect from a rainy day would be to require board approval before any hiring, firing, or promotion. And that in addition, you could set a lower limit for spending per item to kind of contain that for that period of time.
Yeah. I just didn't know about the ordinance that we made for Tiffany. that-
Well, I don't think we'd want to withdraw the total ordinance. I just suggest that rather than, and there may be other ordinances that are out there that would not be appropriate, but at least if you're inclined to do something tonight, what you could easily do is appoint a person and then restrict their hiring and firing privileges and also their spending privileges until you either become more comfortable with them or you decide to reduce or lower or increase those.
Okay,
So you have at least something going on rather than saying you can't hire or fire. Well, you want that interim person to at least get somebody appropriate for a vacancy and then bring that to your board rather than,
exactly. Exactly.
Would they immediately be bonded?
We have just a blanket bond that covers all of that.
I have made some notes here on the process that I would like to see us pursue. I've had quite a lengthy phone call today with Mr. Steve Whitlock. He's Executive Director of the Oklahoma Municipal Management Services, part of OML. I feel like we're going to have to probably have several special meetings during this time of finding someone permanent. And I would like to have him come to a meeting, explain their services to the board. Kingfisher has actually contracted with them to seek out a new manager. And they put out a search. He told me Kingfisher City Council voted to do that Monday. And as of today, they've already got several resumes submitted. But they will filter those for us if we hire their services. There are some services they will provide for free. When I was speaking to him, we had a poor cell phone connection. He was traveling, and I do not know what is provided free and what they would charge for. But I do know that if we paid them a fee, they would take us from start for advertising to the finish when somebody's hired, help with interviews and the entire process. My opinion is I want the town to seek a professional administrator, somebody who's got municipal experience, someone who has got grant experience in seeking and writing grants, and like I said, municipal experience. I feel like that during the interim, and Mr. Whitlock made a very good point to me, and I thought it hit home. He said, it is much better for you to have a vacancy for 4 to 5 months than to have a bad hire. And I totally agree with that we need somebody who will fit what's going on in Hennessey. We've been making great progress. We've got several projects, several grants open. Once again, I give Tiffany credit for finding those grants. I want things like that to continue. Our accounting firm that we use, Crawford & Associates, back when James and Tim, and I guess they were the only ones, former board members I see, but they had a representative at every meeting to do monthly accounting. And we may have to rely on their services once again. It's going to be expensive. Tiffany has told me today that she will help us with our accounting for the next 5 years. No, what? Next few months.
3 to 6 months.
And-
They're gonna let me, they will let me.
And we don't have it on the agenda tonight, but I think we need to utilize Tiffany. I think we need to have another meeting, that we need to negotiate a rate of pay for those services. And but what I'm saying is that she's leaving tremendously big shoes to fill. And I'm not sure we're going to fill those shoes with one set of feet. It may take more than one person to do what she's doing. And in fact, what I'm envisioning is the possibility of a town superintendent position to oversee what's going on outside these walls, and a professional administrator to be the manager and to actually operate the town on a day-to-day basis. And anyway, that being said, I have someone in mind for an interim that I know Tiffany would be willing to work with and help. I kind of want to hear from the board what you all want to do. I feel like the quicker we fill the interim position, the more time Tiffany's got to train them in that. We have, because it takes us 48 hours to post a special meeting, so tomorrow we will have already burned up 1 week of her 2-week notice. So I sort of feel like time's of the essence in the interim position.
So we go with that OML people. They bring their own people in here, right? Their own person that we wouldn't have to nominate them, or
It's not my understanding that they would bring anybody in, Harold. I think they have people who are available for consultation and things, but like I said, he and I had a really bad connection. We were on the phone for a lengthy amount of time. And that's why I would like to bring him in here in person to give us our options and tell us what types of services that they can provide for us.
Yeah, the way I understood it, they had a group of retired town administrators that,
Did you talk to someone there?
yes,
Do you know who it was?
I talked to the lady
At OML or
Yeah.
OMMS?
OML.
Okay.
Mm.
This is a different organization.
They said that they had people that were retired, that, you know, that's what I told you this morning when I talked to you, that I talked to OML. And they have people in position that are retired that come in and help the towns out until they fulfill their,
Yeah, I was under the impression you talked to the government, which is a part of OML.
that's what I, you know, that's what I thought, that, you know, bring somebody in that could come in here and, you know, I know you have to pay them, so. But that's why I told you that the lady that, I guess actually in charge of that was out on personal leave today. I actually couldn't talk to her, but the lady that on the phone explained to me that's how it works, so.
I don't know, the person I talked to was the executive director, and,
You talked to the other one that we talked about, yeah.
yeah, Oklahoma Municipal Management Services, who would be the ones to do that. I don't think OML would provide, I may be wrong, do you know anything about that?
I know a lot of bigger cities and towns, cities use some of the retired ones to do interim. But I know like Kingfisher, they're using their city clerk, they're using Brittany Lydic.
Right.
And most of them, they usually use somebody within because they already know a lot of what's going on in the town, because you're talking 5-6 months. You bring somebody in and it takes a while to train them on what's going on in Hennessey for them to get a grasp of it and then be able to continue. By the time they get a grasp of it, you're filling the position. I don't know what you think, John.
We're talking about interim, the interim position. I don't know that the headhunters that you have talked to would be interested in helping you with an interim director. They might have somebody that they are aware of that they would forward you to. But I think their target is to find a permanent person for you
Yeah,
at a fair fee. OML generally would not be in the employment business, but they again would have people that they would suggest to you to serve as an interim person who have served before in that same position. And I think that's a little bit likable in that at least they've gotten their feet wet. And they have some understanding of how municipalities work. Because cities and towns are just not a normal business entity.
correct.
You've got rules that nobody else has.
Yes. And that is why I think that we should try to utilize the services of the OMMS to help with that, because this isn't an accounting position. It is not a billing position. It is very encompassing, covers a lot of territory, and I feel like we've just got that we're gonna need to spend the money to find the right persons, and then allow them to operate the town. Much like a school superintendent, for those of you in the public. school boards hire superintendent, they allow them to run the system. If the board becomes dissatisfied with their services, they find a different one.
Well, also, any kind of headhunter would not be bashful about trying to help you with compensation, the term of the interim period, things like that, that your board and I would just be making up from scratch. So they have that ability to say, okay, typically we want somebody on, they'll stay on board for 2 to 3 months while we conduct our permanent search. And then you might even talk about whether the interim person could become a candidate for the permanent position, since you would have seen that person in action for a period of time. But I guess I like the idea of hiring some headhunter type group. The fees are more than we want to pay, but I think you get your money's worth. I think you'll get more candidates also, because they will actually, they will be aware of people that are unhappy in their current position or want to move upward or whatever, and they'll go out and oftentimes recruit those people for you.
Mhm.
And those people aren't, those are the kind of people that you and I know that just kind of need a little nudge, and they'll give them that nudge, and so your pool of available men and women will increase, which is, I think what you want is you want as many candidates as you can get.
Yeah. And he told me that they would even do preliminary interviews and narrow down to, say, 5 that they thought was the best fit for Hennessey. They would come in and help us develop a job description, which is something I think we desperately need to update. We've got what is written in the ordinance, but I think it needs to be more detailed. Like you told Harold, it's pretty broad. And Harold, that's where in the job description, decide what.
They would also do a compensation study for you and look at other similar towns with the same population, so that you, not that you're paying over or under now, but they would do a survey, just like you do on your utility rates and things like that, so that you don't underhire or overhire. So that money isn't a deciding factor. You pick the person you want, and the money's going to be the same.
Mhm. I honestly think that we need to, like I said earlier, I feel like we're going to need possibly multiple special meetings, and I would have no issue with calling another special meeting when we could have a representative from OMMS to be present, explain what services they can provide and what the charges for those services are going to be, and that sort of thing. Anybody got any input?
No, that's what I think we ought to do, is have him show up and explain to us what they provide.
Okay.
Before we just turn it over to, especially if you ain't turning it over to somebody that has experience or.
I feel like in that we are going to need a person in charge during that transition. And even while we're waiting, like I said, we've already burned a week of Tiffany's 2-week notice. We're gonna run out of time. And
Scheduled for Monday.
Well, Mayor, it looks to me logical from the discussion that rather than, and I don't know whether, is there a candidate tonight for interim for the interim position?
I have someone in mind, yes.
Okay, so I think you could do one of two things. You could discuss that person and determine whether you want to make that appointment. And I think that you would do that just in a very simple way, and then let one or two of you get together with this person and try to shape up the package, this interim package, okay? Because you don't want to, I doubt you have that ready tonight, nor does the candidate know whether they're going to be appointed tonight. So that would be one route. The other route would be to wait and have a meeting, say this same time next week, bring on board your headhunter, and also put him into contact with a possible candidate, and see if that's the right candidate, or if the headhunter has somebody that is like Superwoman or Superman that's laying out available to you.
Here's my question with that, John, is what Tiffany's last day will be at the end of next week. Who will be operating the community between?
Well, you need to name just either an interim or an acting administrator. And the acting administrator logically would be someone from the existing office that would not have Tiffany's talent, but would be able to perform the basic functions. You know, get the office open, make sure that everybody has something to do, and at least coordinate some of the activity that she would normally. So that would be actually a third person. We've talked about interim director, we've talked about permanent, and then this person would come on board as early as tonight, I suppose, and just be an acting manager in Tiffany's absence. You may already have you ever done that before? Have you ever named a acting?
An assistant or deputy?
Okay.
No. Probably need to.
Well, it's not a bad idea for emergencies, although you haven't had you've gone 17 years without an emergency, so you got a pretty good track record.
We even went through COVID.
Yeah. Well, I have no problem making a motion to appoint John. On our agenda, we've got to appoint an interim town administrator. Is there an issue with, you suggested acting town administrator? Is there an issue between those two terms?
I think, well, I don't think that the action item contemplates appointing someone from the office as just an acting substitute. I think Tiffany has the ability to do that. I think she could name one of our existing employees to serve in an acting role for a short period of time, so that everybody knows that person has authority. I think she could have done that before tonight if she had decided that that was important.
Tiffany, are you comfortable doing that? I'm not trying to put you on the spot, and I feel like we are.
I think I need better clarification on acting. Like you say the same office, but would that be town-wide? Because let me tell you my situation, okay? I've got Shelley, who works in the office, but her husband works for the city too.
Okay.
I've got Denise in the office, who just started a month ago, 2 months ago. So we're the only three in the office.
Okay.
So to me, I have to go outside the office if I wanted to,
I see.
But within town employment.
but within town employment. But you're saying in the office, so I don't
Well,
know, that's why.
I don't want to limit that, I just thought that was the logical thing to do. I didn't realize what the actual facts were.
Yeah, I mean, because that's something I had to, to think about is, Shelley, who is my right-hand person now since Katie left, and, but her husband works for the city too as the sewer superintendent. So I feel like that can't be.
Processes the nepotism one.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, I think that can be considered a conflict. Yeah, supervising your own spouse,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, he gets enough of that home.
So, that's, and I'll point out, okay?
No.
So, let me tell you my reasoning, why I think this person, if you guys wanna put somebody in town. Okay, I've got Shelley, who her husband works in the city. You've got Boney, who's the sewer superintendent. His wife works in City Hall. So those two kind of, you can't really do
Sort of
that.
off the table,
Yes.
so to speak.
So then you've got Troy, Alyssa, and David. Because
David's.
the library director, his name is Steven, he's only been with the town for a few months. So Alyssa, with the water, to me, our prime focus is water, so we need Alyssa, all hands on board on the water. We cannot afford to pull her away from the water. So then it leaves
David,
Troy and David. Troy's going through some stuff. I really think David Trainer, who has been here since 2007. 2007?
Well,
Huh?
2012,
2012? Oh.
10 years.
So,
newcomer.
10.5 years. He knows a lot. He works, he mows, and he does all the cemetery, the parks, everything like that. So, I mean, that he could either do, when he has free time, or he can even get people to help him. And he does the building and permits, he does the building inspections. So he's already doing some paperwork. So I think that he has his water license, he has he's served in pretty much every department of the town except for City Hall. And he started doing that with building inspections. So to me, he would be the one that I would suggest as the acting until you guys decide if you want an interim or if you guys want wait till a full-time. So.
If that was pleasing to you, you could just go ahead and name him for tonight as your interim manager, knowing that you're gonna consider replacing him in the immediate future with another interim. So he's,
Or not.
or not, if that's working for you, or,
After one day, he may become the same call special meeting where
so also that would give time for your headhunter to advise you as to whether that's a good idea or not such a good idea. But at least you'd have somebody on board prior to her leaving that she could brief.
I agree.
But before she leaves. And I kind of like the idea of not having to wait until the last minute to find that interim person. So he may be your first, or, you could have 10 interims, I suppose. But you've got the ability on your agenda tonight to appoint an interim in lieu of a acting manager. And so that would seem to be a logical progression for me if the board is satisfied with that. You don't have to immediately go out and negotiate with him and all this stuff. He just comes to work and he does basically what he's been doing, except he's the watchdog for City Hall. And he would have to do a little bit of that, I think. And he may find someone within City Hall that he could delegate something, he could delegate some of that City Hall duty to,
What do you
as
want?
he comes on board.
I would like to
What do you
ask,
want? Dave, you're here, do you want that position?
yeah, that's what I think, we need to talk to David, and see if David would,
I had a lot of trepidation when they asked if it would be all right to throw my name in the hat, not knowing, you know, exactly what's being done, but with the, really encouraged by the confidence placed in me by Tiffany and Bert, and, you know, I think they were honest with me and said that they were pretty sure I could, you know, of course with Shelley and Denise's help, float along. I mean, we're not gonna start any big projects or anything, you know, just make sure everything runs smoothly until you guys can get somebody else in here. So I think it would be, I mean, it's fine with me. I'm not gonna say anything to my wife about it, but that's wrong. But
I
no,
know the feeling, David.
I don't have a problem with working with everybody to make sure this goes as smoothly as possible.
Good, good.
David,
Mr. Mayor, I got a comment.
okay.
I don't have anything at all against David. I don't have anything at all against David. I think what we're doing here, I think it's a good idea. I do recommend, though, that as we move through time, that we continue to pursue through Mr. Whitlock, OMML, or whoever from OML to get our future interim person in. And then we can move on to, we all know that we need to rework the job description. And I have some other things that I want to propose related to the job description, which is inappropriate tonight because it's not on the agenda. But I can go with what we're doing here as long as I know we're going to go OMML or OML later on down the road.
I want to get Mr. Whitlock in here as quickly as we can.
Yes, sir.
And get that ball rolling.
I appreciate
I
that.
am not as concerned about, once that ball starts rolling, that we have to set a deadline to have a new permanent administrator appointed. Like I said, I thought he made a very valid point when he said it's better to have a vacancy than a bad hire. And so with that being said, I'm going to make a motion to, and I've not discussed, I had talked with David and did not discuss any type of salary, but I'm going to make a motion to appoint David Traynor as acting town administrator at the rate of $4,800 per month.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Bert,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Cliff.
yes.
And Tiffany, before we go to adjournment, I want to thank you for your 17 years of service. I know me and you butted heads many times, but I enjoyed it, you know. And if these guys will stand up with me.
Say one thing to you guys, okay, for the future. Make sure you communicate with your town manager. That's the only way that they will be successful if you guys communicate with them.
Absolutely.
I would like to say one more thing. I really like seeing our employees for the town here. I really appreciate that. I appreciate all the work that you do, and I know you couldn't do this work if you didn't care for the town, and we only want what is best for the town, and it shows 100%. So thank you from my heart.
Especially what we paid you for 10 years.
Yeah, thank you all for coming, and don't be strange.
Oh, we're gonna make a motion to adjourn.
You all are welcome back anytime.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
I know.
roll call?
Harold,
Yes.
Bert,
Yes.
Cliff,
Yes.
David.
Yes.